What up, heavy mommies, and welcome to another episode of the Cosmic Perspective Podcast. Here on the show, we're going to have a number of topics we're going to cover here. I think it should be interesting. Hopefully, we'll give it a nice, entertaining value to it, and that you guys all find it fun. And most important, hopefully you learn something. So, I got a few different things that I want to talk about today. I've definitely been learning my process here in the podcast. I'm learning kind of like how I need to go about doing this in a much healthier way where I don't feel as stressed to pump out episodes and stuff. And so far, I think I'm doing it well because I wanted to record today. I actually wanted to record yesterday, but the day did not allow for that to happen. And so here we are. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about that I think is like super important is the concept of breaking the cycle. I've talked about this a number of times on the podcast, but this is something that has really like stuck with me, and it's something that I've seen not only in my own life, but I've seen in other people around me, and the different ways that we, I want to say we as a generation of millennials and Gen Zers and stuff can change the system, that we can develop and evolve and grow in a way that our parents could not. And one of the things that I watched recently that I thought was really interesting was the concept of like Rugrats and the boomers, and how like the boomer parents and in Rugrats and how they were raising their kids, and how it reflected upon the way that the stress that the boomers were feeling at that time, where the economy started to really disappear that middle class. It started to really change. It started to change what like a normal family could look like and what a normal family could survive on. I know that I personally witnessed that in my life, where, you know, it went from my dad having a pretty good job and could cover us all to not having as good of a job, and my mom needing to get back into the workforce. You know, she was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and I feel really blessed that she was able to do it for as long as she did, but at a certain point she had to go back to work. And so like, in that video, it was a wisecrack video. In that video, they talk about like the different expectations that boomers have, the way that they, you know, kind of like judged their parenting, and the way that they were always like trying to keep up with the Joneses. You know, that certainly is a thing that I don't think is exclusive to the boomer generation, but certainly in the way that they grew up, and, you know, the free love of the 60s, and, you know, and the craziness of that era. And then to go on to be adults, and then, you know, look at where we are now. The boomers have destroyed the planet. Sorry, boomers, if you guys are a boomer listening, I'm sure you guys are wonderful people on an individual level. But that's exactly the thing, is that in that video, they talk all about how it went from having systems and like unions and all these different ways that protected workers to this individual, like, personal responsibility thing of like, it's on you to do it and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, ignoring larger forces that are just way more powerful than you and I as an individual. You know, you and I can do the best fucking thing of all time, and we could be amazing and make all the perfect decisions. But if this societal level systemic thing is preventing certain outcomes from happening, I mean, that's pretty hard to fight the market forces. So I thought that video was super interesting. I highly recommend you guys check that out. And it really explains not only the boomer mentality, but also explains, you know, how millennials kind of got fucked up and why we're so anxious, and why, you know, when we look at the world around us and we see our planet getting destroyed, and we see politicians that are not serving us, and we see, you know, widespread economic disparity, and we see, you know, people of color being, you know, killed in the streets by police officers. I mean, you know, when we see all that, and we grew up through 9/11, and we grew up through the Iraq War and Afghanistan War, and then Libya, and all these other conflicts that we continue to keep getting into, and now escalation with Iran, you know, you look at all that stuff, and like, you can't blame a millennial for having zero faith in the system, because the system has never in our lifetime served us in any meaningful way. It's saddled us with student loan debt. It's pushed anxiety onto us. It's tried to solve everything with prescription pills. You know, you look at the larger thing, you can't really blame millennials for their point of view. You really can't. We deserve to be cynical based on the experience that we've had. When we look at the world around us, we have no reason to believe that these larger systems in place have any good faith way of trying to take care of the issue. And in fact, oftentimes it seems like they are set up to fail so that they can use the explanation of like, well, see, it didn't work, so we shouldn't fund it. And then, you see the breakdown of these social safety nets. So I thought that was a really interesting video. I highly recommend you guys check that out. And it's just, all around really good, eye-opening, and I think perspective changing. But in regards to breaking the cycle, this is something that is related to that as well. And it really comes from identifying toxic traits within your family and finding a way to stop them at your level, right? You can't control other people. Don't try. It's a waste of energy. Only other people can change themselves. You cannot change them. No matter how much you try, no matter how much you try to help them, it's just not going to happen. But when you look within yourself and you find in what ways was I, maybe harmed or damaged from my parents, whether it was a good intention or not, right? Like, your parents could be great people, and that doesn't mean that they still didn't fuck you up in some way due to their own, neuroses. So when people look within themselves and they find the different ways that maybe childhood trauma could have affected them, or different ways in which maybe their feelings were not validated as a child. And, when you're a kid, you're not emotionally equipped to deal with those things. You're not emotionally equipped to understand the larger things at play of like, maybe your parents had a really bad day and they took some frustration out on you. And in that moment, you didn't feel validated. And then it left an imprint on you. You weren't old enough and your brain wasn't developed enough to truly appreciate the circumstances, the larger effects. And it could have been something really trivial, but as a child, you internalized as a deep hurt. And then that deep hurt manifests itself through your behavior and your expressions and different unconscious behaviors that you might have. So, that's something that I've been thinking about a lot is like, I've referred to them in the past as generational curses. And I heard that in the Nas song on his latest album. And like, there's a little bit of a negative connotation to it because it's like, oh, it's a curse. But in my opinion, like, you can't view it like that. Like, I just like the word. I just think it, like, I don't know, generational curses kind of makes sense, right? It's something that has been passed down from generation to generation, and it is a continuation of a negative trait or behavior or mentality that has been transferred. And with epigenetics, like, we know that on some level, some of these things are transferred on a genetic level, right? But we also know that genes can be altered throughout your life. Somebody who's born with a certain gene set, if they live a really healthy life, that alters their genes as they're living, which means when they have kids, that really healthy life and that good lifestyle actually can be transferred to your kid. In the same way that your negative lifestyle could also be transferred genetically to your kid, because your genes are evolving and adapting as you put new things into your body, as you do different things with your body, whether it's exercise or not exercising, all of those things kind of play into a factor, and they really do have an effect on your ultimate culmination of who you are, right? The series of actions and behaviors that you exhibit, and the way that you express yourself, and the way that that manifests itself into your, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So all of those things are something that we can break the cycle, right? So just because your parents did something, I'm going to use like easy examples, addiction. So, let's say your parents are drug addicts, okay? You can be the kid that isn't, right? And a good example of that would be Logic. Logic the rapper, his parents both were drug addicts and alcoholics, and he went the opposite. He went like, oh, I see that and I know that this is wrong, so I'm going to not do any of that. And so you can go that way. Or you can fall in the same footsteps and continue the generational curse, and you can become one yourself. And it's really tough. I mean, when your only example and, your parents, who are supposed to be like your guidance, right? They're supposed to be somebody who kind of sets you up for success. When they set you up for failure as a child, it's on you as a child to like figure out that they're negative, but like, how could you know that? If all you've ever known is your life and all you've ever known is how your household works, you wouldn't know that maybe some of the things that happen in your household are toxic. Like, you don't even understand that, oh, that behavior, that way of belittling, or that way of like shit talking or whatever, that's actually really toxic. and you internalize it, but you don't know that you're internalizing it because it's an unconscious awareness. It seems normal to you because it's all you've ever known. And it is only when you are able to like get outside of that situation, whether it's to move out, go to college, whatever, when you get outside of the situation, you're able to see a little bit more clearly the ways in which maybe that normal situation to you was actually not normal and is not what most people go through, but you didn't know that. And the only way to do that is to gain perspective, a cosmic perspective. But, when you're gaining that perspective, you're able to kind of see things for what they are. And I think it's really important to understand that when we view things, we are never truly seeing anything for what it is. We always have a filter that we will filter it through. We always have some sort of lens that is over our perception, that on any given circumstance or facts, I apologize about the sirens, any one of those things, you're viewing it through the filter, right? So if you've ever used, well, actually, an easy example, a Snapchat filter, right? If all you ever saw was somebody's face through a Snapchat filter, then you certainly would have a certain perception of them based on whatever that filter was. Well, the same thing goes in life with your perspective on whatever else you're seeing. If our perception of reality is essentially a series of information processing filtered through a lens of preconceived notions that then get translated to a point of view or opinion based on not only the information, but the lens that you're filtering it through, and based on environmental and personality factors and all that other stuff, that then becomes your perception of reality. And that's why reality is inherently subjective, because anything that even maybe is objective, like 2 + 2 = 4, it's still being filtered through your lenses of perception. And when you're filtering information, something like 2 + 2 = 4, your filter doesn't necessarily alter that specific thing. But there's a lot of things in life that when you're filtering it through your lens, you might completely distort the truth of it. Math is harder to do that too. Now, flat earthers will find a way to do it. But, for normal things that are kind of like objective fact, it's a little bit easier, where even though you're going to have your own bias and your own filter, you can still kind of see things for what they are. But with certain things, and especially things like family life or, people's toxicity or their relationship to you, that gets a lot blurrier. That becomes a harder line to really find, like, well, what really is objectively true about this situation. And it's very hard for us to remove these filters, because these filters are so ingrained in our subconscious that unless you're trying to be aware of what those filters are, then you are going to continue to view from that point of view. And if that point of view is inherently toxic, then you're going to continue to do toxic traits. So as you bring awareness to the degree in which your reality and perception of reality is altered through your lens of perception, the harder it's going to be for you to be able to correct that. It's like making glasses for your perception, right? The glasses are meant to correct your blurry vision. Well, what if your blurry vision is your point of view, is your personality, is your upbringing, is the way your parents raised you, is the socioeconomic status that you're in, is the geographical location that you live in. All of those things have an effect on your perception and on your filter. So, when we remind ourselves of the existence of that filter, it allows us to remove some of its alterations of perception in front of us. And it's a hard thing to see. It's very hard for us to see these distortions in our perception, because inherently we're seeing it through that lens. So until you can take those lenses off, or train yourself to take the lens off, you can only do it temporarily. It's not a permanent thing that you can do. You're always going to default back to your normal state. But if you can teach yourself, whether it's through meditation or psychedelics or whatever, if you can teach yourself to remove that lens of perception, then you allow yourself to see things as they are, and it allows you to no longer have expectations of what things should be, and to be more realistic and more understanding about the reality of what is. Very difficult thing to do. Easy to talk about, not even really that easy to talk about, but much harder to put into practice, without a doubt. And so with generational curses, some of those perceptions that are taught to you at a young age, you're talking to your parents, or your parents have instilled a certain belief system on you. It is very difficult to break that, at least initially. And then once you begin to break it, there's a part in an attachment from the ego level that wants to hold on to those ideas because an identity was built around those ideas. And it's really difficult to admit that you're wrong when you are attached on an ego level to its existence. When you are attached to the realness of this perception, it becomes very difficult to separate yourself from that, because you believe that you are one with that thing. If you're a Trump supporter, and I'm going to use Trump supporters because I think they're the perfect example of this. If you're a Trump supporter and you believe in, you believe in small government, you believe in that there's a pedophile ring that I guess apparently only Democrats are a part of, even though it's been proven that there are like Republicans who have also done those things. But like when you have these like things, if you identify with it, if somebody shows you evidence to the contrary, like, hey, it turns out Trump actually was kind of a pedophile himself, and he's got credible cases of rape that he's accused of, that he paid hush money to, or that he would walk into the Miss Teen beauty pageants locker rooms just so he could look at them, even though they're all underage girls. All of that evidence suddenly becomes like you can't see it, because then that contradicts with a viewpoint that you have since now identified with yourself and who you are. And I know Trump supporters are really easy to do. They're easy pot shots. They are functionally brain dead at this point. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, bro. But if you support Trump now, you're dumb. And I don't mean to say that because like you're a bad person, or I've posted this before, but like, it's not that you don't deserve healthcare. It's not that you don't deserve a good, fulfilling life. But you're kind of dumb. The Dunning-Kruger effect, which is when you're too dumb to realize that you're dumb, that's pretty much anybody who still supports Trump. Because it's one thing if you believe in like, the myth of what Republicans say that they believe in. Their policies, by the way, have never backed any of those things. It's just, tax cuts for the richest people and tax breaks for the corporations and anything that keeps wages down. That's really what Republicans stand for. But I get that there is like a messaging that they have of like, well, we're pro-life except after you're born, then we don't give a shit and we don't care if you die. Or, all the other things that Republicans, their wedge issues that they kind of use. Their politicians don't actually do any of those things in practice, but that doesn't matter, right? It's the identity with the other things that you believe in, that even though the politicians don't represent that, because you believe that that's part of your identity, you identify with it, and it makes it very hard for you to see the very obvious thing, like Donald Trump being a con man who only paid $750 in taxes, and that he is a charlatan and he really like everything he says, you can tell he's bullshitting. Like that's why I'm saying like there are some people who are really just genuinely too stupid to see that he's, and like I said, they deserve life, right? I'm not like saying like they don't deserve to live. I'm not saying it's not that, but they're dumb, and they are dumb, and it's unfortunate that our education system has failed so hard that people can't see a con man when he's so obvious. Dude, he's not even a good one, okay? A good con man would like not get caught in as many lies as he does. He literally just like, he just says the stupidest shit all the time. And if you're capable of being objective about it and you're not identifying with but the Democrats, you would see that he lies literally like almost every fucking day about almost everything. Demonstrably false stuff that are easily fact checkable. And that's the crazy part. And like, you could argue about what sources are credible and what aren't. Some sources are credible sometimes. Some sources are credible a lot of the time. Some sources aren't credible at all. But objectively, Trump has said thousands of lies during his presidency. Objectively, you could look them up. You could find them. I'm not going to cite them all now. But there's a lot of things he said that are egregious and that he'll flip-flop on. He'll say one day and then he'll say, the opposite the next day. And for some reason, people still fall for it. I don't know. People are dumb. And the QAnon people are definitely the dumbest people of all time. And I got no problem saying that, dude. I'm sorry. But if you believe QAnon, if you believe that conspiracy and you really think that Donald Trump, bro, you think that Donald Trump is the savior of pedophile rings? Of like, oh, he's the one, oh, he's being really hard on. Dude, where is the evidence of that? There is no evidence of that. Literally, children have disappeared at the border, and yet crickets from people on the right because they don't care. Why? Because it's black and brown people. You know, it's people that they don't identify with, and they don't care if their children are missing. They don't care that their parents are being separated at the border. You know, so the hypocrisy knows no bounds with people who still support Trump at this point. I know some people who are right-leaning who are not that dumb, and they don't still support Trump. You know what I mean? And I get it if you fell for it in 2016 because he was an unknown factor and he did have some populist rhetoric. But, I mean, if you're being objective about it, he is a typical Republican at this point. And it's frustrating that people fucking believe this dude. Which actually leads me into something that I think should be pretty entertaining. So I want to pull up. Let's see if I can find it. No. Here we go. Okay. Let me see if I can switch this here. This it? No. There we go. Here we go. Okay. You gotta see this shit. This shit's fucking hilarious, man. We'll mute this. So this dude has the best Donald Trump impression I've ever heard.
Circle and that they're doing, you know, at their Bible study or whatever. They hand out brownies and then they read the Bible and everything. And I just wanted to say thank you, all of my beautiful white Christians, for all the help that you've given me with Jesus and with Mr. God and the whole thing. I think it's great what you people are doing with heaven. Is frankly a lot better than some of the other guys, okay? Some of the other guys just don't get it right, okay? Mr. Buddha, he just wants to eat fish, sit around, get fat. I don't like it. But you Christians with your white people and you're doing Jesus, I think it's really great. I'm feeling all the prayers coming in right now. I literally feel them in my fingertips. When I raise up my little hands, I feel Jesus or whatever the hell it is, whatever your guy is. Holy Spirit, Jesus and God and everybody. The whole thing. Maybe get a chick in there. Get you know, a nice, you know, God chick in there, you know, nice lady. Curvy
nice
God lady.
chicken.
She's touching me too and feels great. Just want to say thank you for all your Bibles and all your dreams and all your prayers that you're doing, all your very happy thoughts. I'm getting a lot of happy thoughts. I don't go to a lot of church, but I'm very Christian and Bible very important to me. Probably a lot more important than some of the other books, frankly. And I love books and I love to read. Everybody. But, you know,
Dude, that part right there is so... It's just so fucking funny, dude. Like, probably better than a lot of other books. Like, he just nails the impression for me, man. Like, and this is the point, is like, he's just rambling in the form of Donald Trump, which is where he's just obviously just making some shit up. And so that's what I don't understand, is like, well, how do you not see that he's just rambling about some bullshit, you know? I'm going to continue it, but I mean, this is exactly how Donald Trump speaks. He literally talks like this.
We've never done much church, but we love Jesus and we love Mr. Jesus. We love Mr. God, and we think it's great what you're doing with ghosts in Hebrew. I think it's all a lot of really good stuff.
A lot of really
And I
good
imagine
stuff.
when you go to church, everybody knows what it's like when you go to church on Sunday and you're praying for the sick guy, and it's like the end of Peter Pan. And you go, let's clap for the guy who's sick. You know, clap if you believe in Tinkerbell. And Tinkerbell comes in, or whoever it is, Mr. Jesus or God or whoever. And then they bless the cancer guy, and everybody goes to heaven. And heaven, by the way, sounds incredible. Sounds really good. You got those 72 virgins and everything. I think it's great. Maybe don't do the virgins. I want some chicks who know what they're doing down there. You know what I mean? But you know, to each their own. You know, some people like that. My friend Jeffrey, you know, they say he likes girls on the younger side, and I know that heaven is doing a great time with Jeffrey.
Oh, fuck, dude. Dude, tell me. So, again, QAnon people, Trump supporters, how do you square that he was friends with Epstein? How do people square that? Like, how do you excuse him being, you know, I remember Jeff Epstein. He was a tremendous guy. He was a wonderful man. Really nice guy. He did like his women on the younger side. He definitely did. And all I gotta say is he did an awesome job, a tremendous job of setting me up on his island. It's like, how the fuck can you support? I don't need these on anymore. But how do you support Donald Trump when he was friends with Epstein, bro? Like, how can you think he's this like pedophile killer and just this like savior of children when the motherfucker hung out with him and went to his island and flew on the plane with him? Like, But that's the thing is, dude, logic doesn't matter, bro. Like, what I've learned about Republicans, at least from the last 4 years, is that they care more about upsetting liberals and like owning the libs. Own the libs, dude. They care more about that than any real policies. And then the policies they support, they don't care if their man actually does it or woman. They don't care if their person does it. Like, they don't care. They're just owning the libs, man, and they're triggering the libs. Meanwhile, by the way, biggest snowflakes of all time, Republicans. I mean, because when they complain about something, they're always crying this like victim mentality of like, ooh, censorship and ooh, whatever. And like, yeah, dude, I'm not in favor of any form of censorship. I think people should be able to, make a bed that they have to lay in, and if you let idiots talk long enough, they're going to bury themselves. But for real, like some people, it's just like, come on, man, like your brainy no worky. And you're just like, dude, I don't understand how you live in the reality that you live in. So anyway, that dude's impressions are amazing, man. They're amazing. There's one other one that I kind of want to show you guys just because it's just so good. I really love the white Christians one because it's like with Mr. God and Mr. Jesus. But this one is really good. So this one, he like fakes the phone call that he did into Fox Business. And it's legendary. So let me just, swap this over here.
Kind of a ruling here. Do you think this is resonating on the American people?
America, you have one choice to make. Pick the guy who got the really bad disease and turned around and made it his little bitch. I feel just about as good as anyone has ever felt, maybe in the history of all of it. Maybe better than pretty much anybody ever did. Jesus was a guy who had a very bad disease, and they wanted to help him get better, and he said, I want to die for sin. I want to defeat hell. And I can unequivocally say that I've done more than Jesus maybe ever did with disease and with hell and with feeling better. I breathe probably a lot better than a lot of the other guys. Probably better than lungs, better than Jacques Cousteau. You know what?
Probably better than lungs. Like, dude, he's so good because Trump literally talks like that. He literally talks like probably better than a lot of other guys. I'm doing a lot of good things. I'm doing a lot of good things for people. Probably better than, Obama did for sure. Definitely better than Obama. I basically have a personal vendetta against Mr. Obama.
The other night we saw Barron had on Mr. Harry Potter, and I saw Harry did a gills, and he went underwater, and he breathed for a long time, and I said, I can do all of that. A lot better maybe than Mr. Albus Dumbledore, who is a terrible idiot and a stupid old gay guy doing a terrible Voldemort. Probably was Frederick Voldemort. And we're hearing that he even sired Voldemort, took him out of the stupid orphanage. And a lot of wizards are very upset. God, I can't breathe. We're doing probably better. I'm even going to say than Darth Vader, Jesus. I am Darth Vader, and I am Jesus. God, they get a big shot, bigger than you've ever seen, stick it right into my ass, and I feel like 20 Jesuses and Dolly Parton. I feel crazy. Jesus Christ. I've had 12 plates of spaghetti since we started recording this. Kraft spaghetti, we didn't have the tomato paste can. I just dumped the whole packet right into my mouth, and I ate the dry spaghetti like those, Pocky? Did you ever have Pocky? Remember the big Pocky? We were doing a Pocky with the Kraft spaghetti dinner. I feel amazing. Vote Joe Biden 2020.
Oh, fuck, dude. Yeah. So, you know, he just nails it. He really does. He really just nails exactly what, he nails exactly what Donald Trump is, man. And he's a charlatan. He's a liar. And if we elect him again, I mean, I do genuinely fear for our country. So, in addition to Donald Trump being the biggest piece of shit on the history of this planet, which obviously we all know. We all know this. Okay, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you people, as I proceed to lie to you consistently. I'm probably the worst president in the history of this country. Probably worse than a lot of other people. And he's obviously horrible. But I do want to make a case for Joe Biden. And this is going to be really funny because you all know that I do not like Joe Biden. But I want to make the case for him. So, the case for Joe Biden is he's not Trump. No, I'm just kidding. That's not it. What I look at when I'm looking at the reality of the situation here is, who would you rather be the one in power as your enemy? A fascist or a neoliberal? They're both bad. Fascists are objectively worse. I mean, it's not even a question. So, who do I want to fight? Who do I have more power against? A fascist or a neoliberal? I have more power against a neoliberal. Now, I also believe that it's harder to convince the sleepy people who are content and who are doing fine to fight against a neoliberal, because the neoliberal will put them to sleep. However, in our current COVID times, we really need somebody who's actually going to take on the virus. And even though I don't like Joe Biden, and even though I don't think he's going to meet the moment, and I don't think he's going to do enough, because we need radical changes, we can't do incrementalism in a time like this. We do need somebody who's competent enough to at least run a proper virus pandemic task force. We need people in charge of the EPA who at least care about the environment, even if they don't go far enough. I would take at least trying to fix it rather than actively sabotaging. And so what you got to remember is that Joe Biden is not going to be extreme. He's not going to be radical. He's not going to give us the policies we need to survive. But he's not going to actively do the opposite of what we need. So at least on some level, there are certain things that Joe Biden is objectively going to do better. And when it comes to getting this virus under control, I mean, we don't have a choice. We literally need somebody who's at least going to try to solve it instead of burying it and hiding the numbers. Trump is literally burying it and hiding the numbers. So, yeah, we need a leader who isn't actively dividing people. Joe Biden, is not going to actively divide people. He's not necessarily going to unite them in the way that he thinks he will, because leftists don't like him and the Republicans don't like him. But he will at least not say rhetoric on purpose that's meant to enable the Proud Boys or other, white supremacist groups. So to me, it's just it is a lesser of two evils. And I think if you're being honest about Joe Biden, you have to be honest and say he sucks. He does suck. He sucks, man. He's not going to be good, okay? But he's not going to be tear the country apart bad. He's going to be we need you to go harder and you're not going hard enough, which I'll take that given the circumstances. So that is the case for Joe Biden. It's not that he's some amazing guy. It's not he was not my guy. And I originally before this pandemic, I was genuinely not going to vote for Joe Biden. I was just going to leave that blank. I was going to vote down ballot and I was going to vote, but I was going to just ignore that. I now know we have to win by a vast margin. I want Donald Trump to know that he lost on November 3rd, because we're going to have a lot of delayed votes coming in. And I want him to know that night that it's a lame duck and he's a one-term president. And by all accounts of the polls, he definitely is. And I'm sorry about talking about politics for this long, but it is what it is. We're near November 3rd. We're getting close. This shit matters, and I need people to understand the gravity of the situation. I'm a progressive. I'm somebody who I support a minimum wage that needs to be way higher. I think $15 is not enough given the circumstances now. but even before, it was like $15 an hour really wasn't enough for minimum wage. And then I support Medicare for all or any sort of universal healthcare system, anything that just isn't private insurance companies, because they're like a mafia middleman. I'm in favor of ending the wars. I'm in favor of fairer trade deals so that our wages are more fair here in this country and our jobs are better opportunities instead of a race to the bottom. You know, I'm in favor of a lot of things that are progressive that, let's be honest, Joe Biden's just not really, he's not for, or he's only for some half-measure version of it. But a half-measure version of it is better than the literal opposite direction. So, yeah. So that's my not very ringing endorsement of Joe Biden, but honestly, like, given the choices, bro, we can't elect Trump, dude. We can't. We literally cannot elect Donald Trump. And if you support Donald Trump, bro, you probably already turned it off. You probably already turned this podcast off. But if you support Donald Trump, dude, I'm sorry, but I really just don't have respect for you. And I think you're redeemable. I think you can learn to be a better person. But if you haven't figured out that Donald Trump's a liar by now, I don't know if you're smart enough to figure it out on your own. You might need somebody to hold your hand. I don't know. I'm not trying to be a hater, but it's just like, bro, I mean, you really have to be very fucking dumb to support Donald Trump now. I'll give you a pass for 2016. I will not give you a pass for 2020. If you still support this racist-ass motherfucker, then... All right. So... another thing related to politics, and then I'm going to get off of politics here, is AOC went on Twitch, dude, and she streamed with Moist Critical, a.k.a. Penguin Zero on YouTube, Charlie, who I've recently become, like, a major fan of, dude. I really enjoy his content. He's fucking hilarious. And I thought that was so cool. I, like, flip between AOC and Charlie's stream and Hassan's stream, Hassan Piker as well. He's the one who set up the whole thing. And it was really cool, man. I love Among Us. I don't know if you guys have ever played Among Us. It's really fucking fun. It is teaching people to lie, which is probably not good, but I really enjoy the game. I think there's some fun element to it where it really is just kind of like a who did you see where, and like, you know, I like those kind of games. I think it's fun when it's like it really is dependent upon everybody else playing and their participation and stuff. And I've been playing it on the iPad. I don't have a PC, so I've been playing on the iPad, and it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy Among Us, and I think it's a great game that I'd love to see a more fleshed out version of the game where it's like, you know, maybe beyond just doing a bunch of mini games as your way of killing time. But I don't know. You know, I don't know what that looks like. I'm not a game developer, but that being said, like the most fun element of it is like trying to figure out who's lying and, you know, who's the imposter. So great game, really fun. I really enjoyed the live stream. I think it's really important for politicians to humanize themselves and to be real people. And AOC and Elon, I mean, they both did so good. Like, and I'm not really like a celebrity worshiper person. Like, you know, AOC's been wrong on some stuff that I disagree with how she went about it, and I don't know all the circumstances that she's in or whatever. And that's fine, right? I'm allowed to have disagreements. I don't idolize these people. But I do appreciate that she is a real human being. She does actually care about people. And, you know, you could disagree about her policies, but if you really don't think that she cares about America, then you're just being disingenuous, you know? And, yeah, I really enjoyed seeing her on stream. I think she really is a natural. She really does have, like, she could be a streamer. And I really appreciate it. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is eBay, dude. I've been selling some stuff on eBay. Bro, some people come in with some fucking bullshit ass offers. Like, hey, I'll give you a quarter of what you listed it for. Like, dude, why the fuck would I take that deal? Now, granted, you can, like, you know, I turned off offers below a certain number or whatever, because I just didn't even want to see that bullshit. But it's just like sometimes, dude, people are just lowballing you some shit. And then, you know how many people message you and are like, hey, email me at this thing or text me at this thing? I'm like, dude, I'm not going to do that. I have a messaging system through eBay, which is official, and I'm not going to have you try to pay me outside of it so that I can't protect myself. And I'm definitely not going to ship anything without you paying me, you know? So it's just like, there's just some fuck shit on eBay. But that being said, it's great that I can sell some stuff that I no longer have use for. So I appreciate it. And I've already sold a couple things and it's been great. This actually is related. So part of me selling the stuff is like, cause I want to buy the new iPhone, dude. I'm a consumer. What can I say? I'm a capitalist pig. I'm not really, but I'm supporting it through wanting to buy a new phone. But man, those new cameras, dude. Those new cameras. Now, for me, camera obviously is really important. I'm talking to you on a fairly nice one right now, and there's a lot of things that I'd like to use my Canon for, but then there are some things that I prefer to use the phone for. And with these new cameras, they have this feature where it does Apple Pro RAW. And so for anybody who's a photography person, you know that RAW format is basically like the largest, most detail-filled image that you can have that makes it easy to edit when you put it into Lightroom or Photoshop, because you have access to like the full range of the picture, the highs, the lows, the mids, the blacks, the whites, all of it, right? You can really truly fine-tune a picture when you have that. The same way that there's video formats that also let you do that. C-Log for Canon, for example. And so they're combining basically the computer, what do they call it? Computational photography of, Apple's algorithms and how they take a bunch of pictures of different exposures and they fuse them all together. It's called deep fusion. And they fuse it all together into the image, and then on top of it, it's in the RAW format. So not only are you getting the benefit of Apple's algorithm giving you the best picture possible, but then it's also keeping it in a RAW format, which allows you to edit it more easily and to do more things with it. So you're getting, the best of both worlds, essentially. And that is a game changer for me. And I have the 10S Max. I'm bougie. I like the Max. This is gold. And this has been a great phone, a trusty phone for 2 years. It is solid. I am going to sell this when I get the new one. But obviously I can't sell it until I have the new one in my hand. Otherwise I'd have no phone. But I'm super excited for these phones. I want to tell 12 Pro Max. I really like that Pacific Blue. I've seen all the reviewers do it. I've seen like MKBHD and Jonathan Morrison and all the tech tubers. I'm a big fan of a lot of them, honestly. I follow a lot of them. And they've all done their unboxings. Nobody's done a deep review or anything because they haven't had that much time. Peter McKinnon, camera YouTuber, another guy who I really like. Canadian, eh? He was talking about the cameras in the iPhone, and he showed like the potential. And nobody has a 10S, or not 10S, a 12 Pro Max yet, but the 12 Pro Max actually has a larger sensor and has nicer cameras than even the 12 Pro. So for me, I already like the Max model. I really like the new redesign. So I'm gonna get this phone, man. And then I'm gonna ideally hold on to it for a while. I don't know. I'm like a serial every 2 years upgrader person, but I want to try to hold on to this one longer if possible. But really excited about the new phones. Apple's just killing it, man. As much as they're a big evil corporation like every other corporation, they do innovate on some shit that I'm just like, how the fuck did you guys keep making this shit? But yeah, so excited about that. And we've got 2 more things that I'm going to cover, and then I'm good. So the other thing that I wanted to cover was Dragon Ball Fighterz, bro. That Dragon Ball Fighterz, dude, is like, it's my favorite game right now. It really is. It's so fucking fun. All the characters are fun, interesting, and viable. There's so many combo combinations. Like, I still don't really feel like I know enough. Like, I don't know all the combo lines of all these characters. I know certain characters pretty well. I'm pretty devastating with Ultra Instinct. I'm pretty devastating with I feel like I'm pretty good with Kefla. Videl is like my other really good one. And dude, my Nappa, when my Nappa gets started in the beginning, dude, I can fuck you up for so many hits in the first combo. Like, I love my favorite move. He does this like elbow thing where he like boom, and then he like hits you down and then hits you up and then like throws an energy beam at you, and then you can like, what I usually do is I'll then send in my assist. So sometimes I'll have like Ultra Instinct on my team with Nappa, and so then Ultra Instinct will come in with his C move, where he like chain hits like 3 hits in a row to keep him juggling. And then I follow up and I do some heavy hits with Nappa, and dude, it's so good. Joey and I have been playing a lot, and we've like traded off. Like, there's been periods of time where Joey's just beating me constantly. Then there's been periods of time where I'm beating him constantly. Now it's like every game's a toss up, which is fun. I mean, the last couple times we played, He's managed to win the best of 5, but and best of 5 meaning like first to 5. But each time it went 4-4, and it was down to the literal last match, the tiebreaker one. So it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy Fighters. I want to record it and like stream it for the gaming channel, but it's tough because like it'd be more fun to play it with Joey on the big screen, and I don't really have a way to like rig up recording it that way because my iMac is in this room. But I'll figure something out, and we'll get some rounds to play so people can watch us, because I think it's really fun. I'm gonna have Joey on the podcast soon too, so I can't really do in-persons anymore with people, so Joey's the only one who I can. So I'm gonna try to have Joey on, and let's get on to the final thing, because Fighters, maybe you guys don't care about that. This isn't the gaming channel, I get it, but I can't help it, dude. I fucking love that game. The other thing is Sober October, dude. I've been doing it. And, if you guys have been following my podcast for a while, you know that I have basically always had a love-hate relationship with weed. I've always had a love-hate relationship with marijuana, cannabis, whatever you want to call it. And for me, it has utility, but my tendency to fall into a pattern of habitual use is just not outweighing the benefit. And so I've taken more breaks in the last 2 years from weed than I ever did since I started smoking weed. I've taken several month breaks multiple times. I've taken several just like singular month breaks, and even 2019 leading into 2020, I took like a 3-month break. I want to say it was from December I stopped till March, sometime in March, right before like the pandemic really hit. And then when the pandemic hit, then obviously all that shit went out the window. But I've just always had a love-hate relationship with it, man. And like, I just think right now it's just not serving me, and it really hasn't served me in a while. So at the moment I'm doing Sober October, but I plan on continuing to not smoke. I might do it when I go back to Florida. I'm going back to Florida for Christmas. Don't worry. I'm gonna take all the precautions. I'm not trying to kill my parents. So, gonna take all the precautions of, I already wear a mask. I already don't really do anything. Like, I literally don't do anything. I go to work and I come back here and I hang out with Mary or Joey, but I live with Joey. So it's like, either one, it's like, I can't, these are the only people I'm ever exposed to on a given basis. So I'm already doing the most I can to limit, my exposure to people. But, I think when I go back, I'm going to leave it open. If I'm on vacation, I think it's a little more fair. But I think for sure, like, I have no intention of smoking anytime before then, and even after the vacation, I'm not trying to go back to it. I don't want to make promises because you set that expectation up, you don't live up to it, then you're disappointed in yourself, you feel shame, all that other stuff. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to break those cycles of shame for myself, and I think I judge myself kind of harshly on some of those things sometimes, and I think it's okay to understand why you maybe have gone into a particular habitual pattern or behavior. And so you have to give yourself not excuses, because you don't want to just excuse the behavior. You want to acknowledge it, but you also don't want to beat yourself up over it, because then you're like going to end up shaming yourself into doing it more. So there's this weird balance of trying to figure out for me, how can I not do it, but then if I do it, it's not the end of the world, and I don't fall into like, oh, well, fuck it, it's all out the window now, and then going back into like a really bad habit, and I don't think that anybody who knows me would even consider my consumption of cannabis as like a problem, right? Like, it's not like I do it as much as some people do, like where it's like constant, like 24/7. It wasn't even like that, but it would end up being like, oh, well, it's every night after work or whatever, and I'm winding down, and that just isn't, it's just not healthy to even do that. If it's unconscious, and then it's like you're not even cherishing the moment when you're high, like you're, the way that I treat psychedelics is the way that I would like to treat cannabis. Like, I don't just trip all the time. I'm not like constantly fucking tripping balls. I do it when I feel like there's a moment where like I think there's some lessons to learn or some interesting things to look at that I kind of want to give a day to myself, and I do that. And sometimes it's a singular time in a month. Sometimes it's after a couple months or something. I don't really plan my psychedelic trips out like super in advance. It's more of like if I see an opening and I'm like, oh, this is, a good stretch of days where I can do it and it's not going to disrupt my normal flow of life and everything. And I feel like there's something that can be gained from it, then I'll do it. Whereas like with weed, it was too easy for me to just be like super casual, like, oh, I'll just hit the pen. Oh, I'll just hit the bong real quick. Like, it's fine. It's 8 p.m. I'm not doing anything. And I forgot how much of a fog that puts your brain in. And my brain was in a fog genuinely for a while. And part of it was the coronavirus, man. I leaned on it, dude. I've learned a lot of things about myself with like stress and anxiety, and I have more anxiety than I ever gave myself like credit or understanding of. And I even in the past have had like panic attacks, and I didn't even know that that's what they were because I was like young. I was like a young adult or a teenager, and I didn't realize that I was having panic attacks 'cause I didn't really know what a panic attack was. And I like gained that clarity recently where I like remembered several moments in my life, in my childhood, where I was like, damn, like that was a panic attack, wasn't it? And when I've learned these things about myself, I've learned that like, I think, caffeine has also contributed to my anxiety, and I think weed has too. So since cutting both of them, I cut them both. I did them cold turkey, which for weed was easy, but for caffeine was hard. That like my brain fucking hurt. I had headaches for the first few days. And I'm not even like a big, like I don't drink coffee, but I would have like the little Mio squirts and I would squirt them in water. And like it just fucked me up. Like I feel like it fucked me up. And, I was doing pre-workout and I feel like it was getting me like too angry, like a pre-workout, like, yeah, that's part of it is it wants you to get hyped and amped so that when you work out, you get the best workout. But I think it was just like a toxic combination. So since cutting all those things out, my dreams have come back. I feel a lot more clear-headed. And I definitely feel like, yeah, I need to be sober for a minute, But it's tough, dude. It's tough. Pandemic brings the worst out of you. And like, when you're stressed out, you rely on certain things. So for me, it was weed and it was definitely eating. Like it definitely just was eating a lot of food. I wasn't going anywhere and I was eating a lot of food. And just kind of like it became a stress eating thing, and I gained weight from it, and I became self-conscious about that, and that made me feel worse about myself. And I'm not even that fat, I give myself a lot of shit for it, but it's like I'm not like a fat dude. I'm over the weight that I would like to be at, but that doesn't mean that I'm like actually like a chunker. But that being said, that's part of it, man. That's part of the journey and part of learning. And I think I've learned a lot about that stuff. I've gained clarity, and I'm working on those things. And I feel like I'm working on them in a really honest way now, and a less shamed way, where I'm not shaming myself. I'm genuinely giving myself the allowance of like, well, this is what it is, and we're going to work through it, and we're going to figure it out. And when you have that honesty and that openness with yourself, you allow yourself to grow from it. You allow yourself to heal. Because if you don't, you're not giving yourself that leash. And if you don't meet your expectations, you then beat yourself over the head with it, which then prevents you from even wanting to do it in the first place. You're creating a barrier for yourself. So, it's a lot, and I've learned a lot, and I feel like I'm growing a lot, and I feel like this year has really shaped me in a way that I did not expect. I was definitely, when I went into this year, I was thinking, oh, hell yeah, like I got a new job. I was in a better situation. I was feeling good. And then the pandemic hit and it really just like ruined that. But I had too much stock in external things, which is why something like the pandemic could ruin that. And also, by the way, if the pandemic's making you feel shitty, you are totally justified, dude. There's more than enough reasons to feel shitty. And with the government not helping us at all and not giving us anything throughout this whole pandemic, meanwhile every other country in the fucking world is at least giving some people some relief for something, we have a government that just doesn't give a shit. So it's understandable, man. It's understandable, whatever you guys are going through during this time. This is extremely difficult. Even the strongest of us, and I don't even consider myself the strongest of us, but even the strongest of us have to deal with these things. And if we're not honest about the impact of them, then we let them fester and build and grow in a way on the inside that creates this disruption of our inner peace and our inner harmony. And if you're not aware of the thing that is growing within you, then you're not going to be aware of the way that it is affecting without you, But that being said, there's hope. There are things on the horizon. I do have hope that I think people are a little more conscious. And although we still have, unfortunately, too large of a percentage of people who are really dumb, who are just really just fighting against their own interests, I think that will continue to get smaller and smaller over time. You know, you look at the younger generation, there's a lot of hope to be had there. There's a lot of them are smarter than their parents, and their parents don't want to admit it, but a lot of them are. So I think we have a lot of hope with our future generations. We just have to give them more power, and we got to give them more wealth, dude. We're not letting the millennials build any wealth. So hopefully we can figure this stuff out. I believe in us, and I appreciate you all for listening. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff. Give me a rating in the iTunes store, on the podcast app. All of that really helps. And yeah, I'm just, I'm still small. I'm still a small time creator here. So any little bit, like sharing it, whatever, all that stuff helps me. Don't share it if you don't like it. I mean, don't share it if you don't care for it, right? But if you really did like it and you really got value out of the content that I'm making, that I would appreciate a share, because it does help me grow. It helps me, get my message in front of other people. So thanks again for supporting. Peace out, heavy mommies. Love you all.